I can hear you loud.
Yes. All right. Okay. So I am so happy to have Brother Felix C. Moore, the Superman extraordinaire himself. I am so grateful. I was just trying to, do some fill in before we can get everything working. Thank you all for tuning into another episode of Be Healed Web Show. I am your host, Camille R. Perry. This is the Blue and White Takeover edition because I have my frat brother, the most illustrious. First of all, let me be petty for a second. So many times, so many Divine Nine folks want to call each other sorors and frats and stuff, but we are the only constitutionally bound Greek letter organization, my brothers, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, founded on Howard's campus on January 9th. 1914. And so I'm grateful for y'all. Where would we be without y'all and that wonderful lover stroll? And so here we are, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, January 16th, 1920. We are officially in the 100 Club. We're so excited about that. We're 101 now. And it would only be fitting for me to kind of be braggadocious on tonight's episode. So if any of my sorors or frats are on the line, please get in this here chat. We want to hear and see from you. All right. And so let me just tell you a little bit about Felix C. For those of you that know your frat, your friend, your brother, maybe he goes by, he has many titles. He's not just brother, he's friend, he's an uncle, he's a preacher. Been preaching a mighty long time, matter of fact. Was that right, Elder? Since age of 19? You've been on the mission field, right? In the battlefield for the Lord. And so we appreciate all that you have done and all that you are to the body of Christ as well as to this world. You are not only a social worker, but you are a child advocate. You worked in Child Protective Services for many years. Now you're heading over at Head Start, having a director role there. He's an author, y'all. He done authored 2 books, not just one, 2 books. Okay, and I'm gonna drop those on tonight. He is an author. He is most important. He's a man of God, and so I'm not going to belabor the moment because I want you all to hear his story. But he's a survivor. He has overcome many adversities and trials. And so how I found Mr. Felix C. I don't even know how we started following each other on Instagram, to be honest with you. I'm confident it has something to do with blue and white, because you know how that goes. You make a post on Founders Day, you tagging folks, and next thing you know, you follow them.
Right.
Just a family like that. So since then, I have seen you always smiling. And then you move from Alabama, Mississippi area. You moved from Mississippi to Colorado. So that's you right. Went from one extreme weather to another.
Don't
know how you did. So you went over there, and then also you have it where you're you've had sicknesses and challenges that you've overcome, but you never stop smiling. And now you dancing on TikTok.
Yes, I am.
Like, literally dancing, y'all. I don't know if y'all following him, but he dancing on TikTok, y'all. So it's honestly what I knew. I just had to have you on your show. This is what did it for me. You didn't post for a few days. And I was like, where's the 60-second motivation? What's up? And then you posted that you were in the hospital, you were ill. But then the next post I saw, you were standing up shouting in the hospital room. I said, Lord, if he turn around and be dancing out his clothes like David, we're going to have a problem. I'm going to have to call Brother Knowles and tell him, come get your directors, come get them. So, but welcome to Be Healed. Thank you for saying yes. And I just want to talk with you. Want to hear from you, learn more about you. Is that all right?
That is all right with me.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
So, now, if I missed anything, just tell the people a little bit more. If you want to fill in any gaps there.
Well, you actually did a good job, but let me first say that I am so honored for this opportunity. And so just thank you for just noticing me. During this period of COVID, was working from home. And so a lot of what you had an opportunity to see, to even notice who I was somewhat of self-care and therapeutic. And we'll talk a little bit about self-care and things like that. But and so now it turned into something I really had no intentions that it would turn into. And so I just like to say, most of this is a God thing, because it's definitely not anything that Felix himself is doing. But you did such a great job at telling the people who I is, but letting everybody know who I am. But and you even said the C, because anytime I say my name, I always say Felix C Moore. And so and that C means so much, because it's actually my middle name, which is Castrell. And my grandmother gave me that name. And so I lost my grandmother in July of 2020. And so for so many years, I really didn't care for that name. She was literally the only person that called me by that name, but now it means so much more to me. And so I wear it as a badge of honor and even memorial, because she gave me that name. And so, yeah, I went to college at the University of West Alabama. Go Tigers. And if there's any Roll Tide in the house, we rolling with the Tide too. And that's where I actually became a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated through the Mu Kappa chapter there at the university. And even while there, I served in many capacities throughout my undergraduate chapter. And I'm currently a member of the Delta Delta Sigma chapter of Phi Beta Sigma here in, they're in Denver, Colorado, because I'm actually in the South right now. But where I serve as the vice president as well as the membership chair. And so MIP chair. And I also serve within my region as the director of collegiate affairs. And I will say to the people that are on, it is so hard for me to talk about myself, but here I am. If you know anything about introverts, I'm very much an introvert, but I consider myself a social introvert. That's my own diagnoses, by the way. But yeah, but other than that, I think you hit the nail on the head. And again, I'm just excited to be able to share and just talk about life in general.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, let me tell you something. Like I told you when we talked on the phone, I said, I don't know you, but I feel like I know a little bit about you. Know that you're a family man. But one of the things that I think is huge is that you, and we're going to talk because this whole series is regarding This Is Us. So you're going to get to share with people who you are and what made you to be the person that you are today. So Absolutely. we have the familiar bond of both the fellowship in Christ, but as well as with blue and white. But before all of those layers, what was childhood for you, and what was that, and then how did you become such an advocate? Because to be an advocate, that is denying oneself. That is really servant leadership, to advocate for someone else. So what caused you to go into that way? But let's first talk who, Castrell, that was
who I is.
Right, that's ready for you. But tell us your journey.
Absolutely. So I come from a little small town. A lot of people don't even know this. And I see one of my chapter brothers just jumped in the room from Mu Kappa. Hey, Stanley. But I grew up in a little small town of Philadelphia, Mississippi, not Philadelphia, PA. And it's Neshoba County, Mississippi. And honestly, if you know anything about Black history and the Civil Rights Movement, my little town was very integral in that Voters' Rights Act and just getting all of that implemented. And matter of fact, just this past weekend, I took my nephew out to Mount Zion United Methodist Church, which was burned during the summer of '64, which caused the 3 civil rights workers to come down to Mississippi, and even the whole Freedom Summer event that sparked this whole, now we have the right to vote for whoever we want to vote for. But I grew up in a little small town, and my community was called, or is called rather, Stallo, Mississippi. We ain't even on the map. Is as you're driving up Highway 15 north, there is a plot of land where you'll see several houses on to the right, to the left side of the highway if you're traveling north. and that's owned by my family. My great grandfather, who I never got to meet, he literally passed away 2 months before I was born, and I never got to meet him. But God gave him the wisdom, and not only the wisdom, but the fortitude and the ability to purchase land in Neshoba County, Mississippi, at a time when most African Americans or Black people probably didn't even own a cow, if we just be honest about it. And he worked the land along with my great aunts and great uncles and sent many of them off to college. And here we are. And so I grew up. We weren't rich. We were rich in love. And we did have some material things, but we were poor. And, I never slept outside, but I have moments of homelessness where we had to go stay at Big Mama house. Yeah. Right. And there was some struggles there. And so Felix was just this little skinny dude with asthma, just really trying to find his way in life. And so my mother, who I love very dearly, she's passed away now. It'll be 11 years in March. And my mother, I have an older sister, but she worked very hard to get us to provide for us. There were many nights where our only meal was a bowl of rice with some butter, and if we was lucky, I had a little sugar to sprinkle on it. But that was a meal, right? And one story that I like to tell is there was one time where rice was for dinner. And it was only enough for my sister and I. And I watched my mom that night fix the table, serve the rice, and she receded down the hall. This is actually in one of my books. I talk about this, but she proceeded down the hall, and we could hear her praying, telling God, thank you. And then she turns around and said, well, now, Lord, fill my belly because I got to get up and go to work in the morning. And so those are the moments, I think, that really made me who I am. Again, the moments of homelessness where we had to go stay at Big Mama. I remember being evicted as a kid, and we were coming home from revival that night, and they had changed the locks on the door. And we had to walk to my great grandmother's house at 10, 11 o'clock at night. So we wouldn't be sleeping outside. And so those are the things that made me who I am. And I always tell this story. When I was about 15, 16 years old, my sister and I, we came home from school one day and the lights was off. The lights had been turned off. And I just remember sitting in that living room and just praying and asking God, like, okay, this cannot be it, right? This can't be it. And I just remember making a promise to him that if I could just get out of this, I will always put myself in a position where I can advocate and be there for families and children. And so, believe it or not, I went off to college and my educational experience, that even made me who I am. Most people don't believe this. If I tell them, they don't believe it. But I don't have a high school diploma. I don't have, you say, wait a minute, Felix, how do you have a degree from college and you don't have a high school diploma? And so in the fifth grade, by the time I got to fifth grade, I had never failed a class in my life, never failed a grade. Well, I struggled in fifth grade. And so they tested me, and I'm gonna try to get through this really quickly, but they tested me. And long story short, I probably just needed a tutor. Honestly, that's all I needed was a tutor. But growing up in Neshoba County, Mississippi, at what was a predominantly white school, it was customary really for Black students who struggled to just throw them in special education. And so my mom, being just this hard worker, I always say they bamboozled and hoodwinked her because she didn't know to just say he needed a tutor, get him a tutor. And so long story short, they placed me in special ed in fifth grade, which meant I never continued to never fail a grade. But even that experience was horrible, right? So I spent fifth through 10th grade in special education doing work that I did in first and second grade.
Wow.
Right. And so by the time I got to 10th grade, I went to my mom and was like, look, I need to test out of this because I want to go to college. and I can't go to college this way.
Mhm.
And thankfully, I was able to test out. But guess what? I missed a whole year of credits. So I still ended up graduating high school with a completion certificate of completion. But I had three amazing teachers. If there are any educators in the room, listen to your students, support your students. I had three amazing teachers: Suzette Chan, Arlene Brass, and the late Olivia Hughes. And these three women pushed and said, Felix, you can do better. You got this. Got to my senior year. They enrolled me into East Central Community College to take my GED that summer, and even paid for me to take the GED. And that's how much they were invested in who I was. Passed the GED, earned my GED. And this is somebody who hadn't taken any regular classes at all, right? And so passed the GED, earned it, and went to college. Took my ACT. That's a story in itself. My mom actually had to go off on the school counselor in order for me to take the ACT because they refused to give it to me. They told me I wouldn't be successful, and there was no need for me to take it. And so my mama had to be Mama Bear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so all of those things made me who I am and made me want to become an advocate because I refuse to see Black and brown children and families mistreated. And so that's what I've dedicated my entire career to.
I think that's awesome. I mean, first of all, let's give your mom a round of applause, even in, in her absence. I'm grateful for her commitment. You almost made the ugly tears come out when
Look, I'm holding them back now. I'm holding them back.
because I was this close from having ugly tears and a Baptist fit because you said when you heard her pray, Lord, fill my belly. I'm like, but he's such a good God.
Yeah,
And so I'm so grateful for that. And then to what, unfortunately, what you mentioned is something that still goes on today.
absolutely.
It is very common. I feel like right now everybody's getting a diagnosis of ADHD.
Yep,
Everybody's getting a diagnosis of some form of being on the spectrum of autism, and it's literally like a all a all call for minority children to have this label now,
absolutely.
and even some those that are of Caucasian descent, that they are getting those stigmas too. And a part of me is just like, first, if that's the case, like I have my parents, I thank God that I still have my parents, but my parents both have ADHD. If based on what y'all listed,
Right.
look, my dad's probably watching now with his iPad in his lap, playing Word with Friends. Like, I hear her, but what she say? What she say about me? But unfortunately, we put the stigma on children, and
Mhm.
then we wonder why we have a generation that struggle with their identity, and they struggle
Absolutely.
with acceptance and loving themselves and growth. And so it's so tragic. And because of your experience and Lord blessing you to not only promote out of high school and into college and join the best and finest fraternity in the land. I'm giving my friend all the love tonight. I'm like, come on. Look, I told Brother Niles, I said, listen, okay, I need you to put this out in the brotherhood that one of your
Yeah.
own will be on the show. And I'm looking for my frat brothers to start stepping up and saying they want to come step in to be healed and talk to y'all sorrows. But anyways, not only were you able to do that, but tell me about what that experience. Why did you want to pledge Phi Beta Sigma? What made you want to have that brotherhood?
So growing up in the South, we all know, right? Those of us that are in the South, D9 organizations it's the premier thing. It's
Yes.
the thing to do, right? And so even growing up in small town Philadelphia, um, we had some awesome young men and young women at that time to go off to college. And so some of the guys that I idolized or really looked up to became Sigma men at Jackson State University. Some were older. Some of my high school classmates, their father was a Sigma from Alcorn State University. The mom was a Zeta from Alcorn State University. And one thing at my high school, so each year Jackson State Alcorn had high school day. And so those, at least two of those teachers that I mentioned earlier, Arlene Brass and the late Olivia Hughes, because they were our only two of three African-American teachers at my high school. But they always organized high school day for Alcorn and Jackson State. So each year we took a bus, we went to a football game at Jackson State, went to a football game at Alcorn State for high school day. And so we got to see stepping and strolling and just like, oh man, I can't. So Phi Beta Sigma just became really what I just strove to be, or I was just striving to be. That was country for you, folks who speak good grammar. You knew what I meant. And strove ain't no word. Y'all know what I'm talking about. And so, like I said, those young men that went off and became Sigmas, I looked up to them. And so when I left, I actually started out at junior college, community college. But I knew I wanted to be a member of Phi Beta Sigma fraternity probably since the age of 15, 16 years old. And as you know, Phi Beta Sigma has a Sigma Beta club, but we didn't have Sigma Beta. We just saw them as Sigmas and they were nice to us. And so I wanted to be a Sigma. And so when I got to the University of West Alabama, and even in that, until I was 26 years old, I was my grandparents' only grandson.
Wow.
And so I had 8 female cousins, first cousins, and my sister, and then there was me. And so for 26 years, that's all it was. And so I only saw my boy cousins that I had that were down the line, maybe Christmas or Thanksgiving or occasionally throughout the year. And so I played sports in school, so I had that camaraderie and brotherhood. But it was just something about that fraternal bond. And also once I got to the University of West Alabama, go Tigers. Once I got there, I saw those men of Phi Beta Sigma. I just saw them and was like, wow, that's what I got to do. And so then I also saw how they embraced me, because being an introvert, I didn't go to the parties on Thursday night. I wasn't at, the social events that they were having. I just didn't go. But I also didn't know that they really were looking at me. I was in the band. So that was the only notoriety I had, was I was a member of a ragtag band. So it's a good band now, but at the time, and my frat brother Stanley that's in the room, and some of my classmates from West Alabama, they can tell you when we got there, you could probably say I was probably one of the founders of the band, because we did not have a band per se at the time, and that was in 1999. But I didn't know that these brothers were watching me. And so it came time for the interest meeting or the informational. And as I'll never forget this. And we were sitting in the cafeteria, myself and what would become one of my line brothers. And we were eating, and one of the big, I'm about to date myself. One of the young men of Phi Beta Sigma. One of the young men of Phi Beta Sigma came over to the table and was like, "Hey, gentlemen, we're going to see you tonight at the interest meeting." And now, I'm telling you, now I wanted to be a Sigma, something awful I want. But when in that moment, I said, "Oh no, I'm not coming. I'm not coming." And so my best friend, who then would become my line brother, he was like, "Well, he wasn't even interested in Sigma." He said, "Well, if you really want to go, I'll go with you." And so we went that night to the informational, and it was, it may have been 50 guys in the room that night that we went to the informational, and they handpicked 14 of us, and we became the largest line in our chapter's history. that semester. And but that was my journey into Sigma. Was that I knew I wanted to do it at a young age, and then I had the opportunity once I got to the University of West Alabama.
Awesome. Awesome. So, I mean, so thank you for taking this childhood to that. I would say college is like pre-adulthood. I do think adulthood needs to change to just 30.
Right.
I feel like between teens and 20, just call it the gray area.
That's
Okay.
it.
We all trying to find ourselves. We're not really sure what we're going to do next. But adulthood for me, 30. But
Absolutely.
so you through all of that and having that experience, how I saw that you mentioned that you survived cancer. When did that cancer diagnosis take place?
So that was in 2012, and actually it probably dates further than that, but that's when it was diagnosed. And so around 2011, end of 2010, 2011, I really started having some health issues, and I had, gone to the doctor, and they diagnosed me with I don't. Many of you may have heard of ulcerative colitis, which is a cousin of Crohn's.
Yeah.
Crohn's being the more serious of the two. And so they diagnosed me with that, medicated me, but then what happened, Sarah, was my legs began to swell. And so I was clumsy. So I was like, okay, I've fallen, maybe that's why my ankles are swollen and things are going on. Went to the doctor. They was like, oh, well, it looks like it might be like an infection, maybe that you had contracted. So they started like medicating that, but my legs continued to swell. And then it actually swelled to the point where I lost my job. I lost my apartment. I really was homeless at this point. I lost everything because I was sick unto death, but did not know it because I was misdiagnosed. And so even in that, so like I said, I mentioned, I lost everything. A lot of my friends don't even know this, that may be on tonight, but when you talk about being at the bottom, I was at the bottom. I was living in a state where I had no family, other than some, a few church friends and things like that. And so I had a really good friend named Jackie, who at the time, so I had stayed everywhere that I could stay at that point. And I'll never forget this particular night. I just told her, like, take me to the homeless shelter. That's where I had gotten to the point of having to go to the homeless shelter. And she was like, no, I'm not going to allow my friend to sleep in no homeless shelter. I spent the evening with her and her mother at their home, and I had $20 to my name at this point. And she and her mother purchased me a train ticket to Jackson, Mississippi. I had cousins there who they had been communicating with. They purchased me a one-way train ticket from Memphis, Tennessee. And that morning they took me to the train station. And I'll never forget the words Jackie said, "Don't look back." She said, "Don't look back." And I got on the train with $20 in my pocket and a comforter to keep me warm because I didn't even have a coat. And rode into Jackson, Mississippi, still sick, legs swollen. It's a little gruesome, but I actually had tumors on my legs. And I couldn't, at that point, I was struggling to walk, couldn't even wear shoes. I was wearing house shoes at the time. And got off the train in Jackson, Mississippi. My cousins picked me up, and I spent one night at the home, and the next day was rushed to the emergency room.
Wow.
And from that, I went from triage to 7 days in the hospital with a diagnosis of soft tissue sarcoma. Never heard of sarcoma in my life. Matter of fact, it is a childhood cancer. And most adults who are diagnosed with it obviously as an adult, there's only a 5%. Oh, Lord.
Come on.
It's only a 5% success rate of survival. if you're diagnosed with sarcoma as an adult. It affects the limbs, so it could have affected my arms. It did affect my legs. Thank God it never got above my knees. Matter of fact, during treatment, they discussed amputation because both of my legs were affected by the cancer. I did 3.5 years of chemotherapy, and the chemo was so strong. I was sick as a dog each time that I went. But I had some frat brothers and some friends that prayed and came and took care of me and made sure I was good. But that was probably one of the most depressed times of my life as well. And my grandmother was there. She was there to really assist and help. And so that was a tough period in life. I can be honest with you guys, and my best friend who's on tonight. So many times I would just, that night, my prayer was not, oh God, continue to help me. My prayer literally was, don't let me wake up tomorrow. I was 33 years old, had a home health nurse, somebody giving me mess, and my cousin having to bring me breakfast to the bed because at this point I couldn't walk at all. So from March of 2012 to June of 2012, I was bedridden, couldn't walk at all. The tumors were still on my legs. They couldn't remove the tumors. And like I said, I went through the chemotherapy. Praise be to God. I survived it. I've been cancer free since September of 2015.
Hallelujah.
I've been cancer free, and I do suffer from permanent nerve damage in my legs. But as you can see from my TikToks, it has not. It has not prevented me from doing what I needed to do. And in that period, she's actually on tonight. My sister, Sarah Vanetta Hardy, that's my buddy. I call her Vandy. Somehow God brought us together, and she really encouraged me during that period. And even my cousin, who is just a woman of God, I was feeling really bad for myself. And was suicidal.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I was suicidal. And I guess God gave it that, like, you know what? You better go in and talk to this fool. And I'll never forget, it was about 6 o'clock in the morning, and she did a kick door on me. And that's how I always describe it. But she did a kick door on me and said, get up out of that bed.
Yeah.
And stop feeling sorry for yourself. Yeah. Those were her exact words. And that was in June of 2012. And I got up and walked for the first time since March of 2012. So yeah, so that journey, and again, that just continued to like make me who I am, which, one of my books is a result of going through the treatment. When the helper needs help.
Yes.
I had been a social worker for many years, worked with many families, but here I was needing a social worker, and I was a horrible patient. I was horrible at it. Many of the social workers was like, listen, we got this. We got this. I was like, oh, but I need to advocate for myself. No, you need to heal. Shut up. So yeah, that was certainly my journey. And it was a tough one. I had just lost my mom, so I actually was still grieving the death of my mom at the same time. And so I was probably at my lowest that I had ever been in life.
Yeah, I told you when we talked on the phone that day. I said I hear music all the time. So, I'm standing in the need of prayer by John P. Key. I'm just, what he would say, it's me, oh Lord. It's, you say when the helper needs help. I mean, come on, totally can understand that. And then as so many were commenting, I just want to echo amen to all those that have shared. It is a powerful testimony. And the process of your healing, because I know, well, I'm going to ask a question and say something at the same time. Okay. So in the process of healing, sometimes I think people look for an immediate response. I'm sick on Monday. There you go. I lost him for a moment. You back?
Here we go. I'm back. I don't know what happened, but I'm back.
Okay. I was like,
I'm still talking, doggone it.
Not again. I can't take nothing else. Okay. But sometimes when we're talking about we want to, when we're asking God for healing, we're asking to be
Mhm.
healed from whatever. Some are dealing with COVID right now, some are dealing with other diseases and sicknesses, and cancer is a huge one. I mean,
Mhm.
COVID has kind of taken the main stage, so we don't really hear the C word too much. But you know, knowing that it wasn't instantaneous healing, knowing that you had those times where you prayed not to wake up, knowing that you were in this place of grief and sorrow, but yet never stop believing that God is God.
Absolutely. I never lost faith. I pretended like I did, because I was angry. I was upset with God. I was like, okay, now I, gave my life to you. I am ministering your word. I've gone to college. I've done everything. It was a Job moment, right?
Yeah.
And just like Job, he stepped down and said, listen, brother, let me tell you something. Because what you're not going to do is talk to me like that, right? You have to endure this because
Yeah.
it's going to be necessary for somebody else.
That's
It's
right.
going to be necessary. And so the pain that we feel, the pain that we've gone through, it sucks.
Yes.
It
Yes.
sucks big time, but it ain't for you. It ain't about you.
Oh God.
I'm reminded of one of my favorite authors, Dr. Robert Frost. He is my absolute
Yeah.
favorite.
Good. He
But
good.
he wrote a short story titled Stopping by the Woods.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't tell the story, y'all can look it up, Stopping by the Woods. But one of the most famous lines to me out of that entire short story is miles to go before I sleep.
Mm.
Miles to go before I sleep, which
Mm.
means you don't have permission to die.
Come on.
Not necessarily a physical death, but
Yeah.
you don't have permission to die. I mean, you can't quit. You may want to quit, but
Yes.
you cannot quit. Just 2 weeks ago, I was in a was a stressful employment. I was a child protection service worker, had just spent 4 or 5 days in the hospital, been off work since January the 12th on sick leave, was being harassed by my supervisors and admins. And on February the 12th was my scheduled first day back to work. And I walked into the building and quit. Didn't have a job, had nobody offered me a job, didn't know how I was going to pay my bills in the month of had no idea, but I knew I could not stay in that situation and live.
Mm.
And literally 2 days, 3 days, because it was the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
3 days later, I showed up at an interviewed.
Mm-hmm.
2 days after the interview, them folks called me and said, do you want the job? And of
Yeah.
course, I said, yeah, because I got bills to pay. But but the moral of the story is you have miles to go before you sleep. You can't quit. The horse in that story wanted to stop because it was cold. He was wet and
Yeah.
tired. Right now, you're cold, you're wet, you're tired, you're frustrated. COVID has got everybody scared to touch one
Yeah.
another and
Yeah.
scared to cough around folk. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, now this is the God honest truth, and I'm gonna hush. You got miles to go before you can sleep. Read it; it's gonna bless your life.
I'm gonna give that to my god baby. I shared with you that she's dealing with stage 4 cancer
Mm-hmm.
here in my home, and I have made it very clear to her numerous of times, you're not dying here at
Mm-hmm.
well, my address. You're not dying because I'm so used to saying, I'm like, wait, lie. Wait a minute, hold on, wait a minute. But and when I think it's easier for us, and I love what your friend said. Let's see, he said that he was going.
Yeah,
Brandon
yeah.
said
He refused. He called me and told me while I was sick. He said, "I will not tote your body down the aisle of a church. So get up."
yeah, but see, and
Those were
that's
his exact. Yeah.
and see, and that's the thing when you I hear that song, J.J. Harrison, and I believe his last name is Wolford. You're going to live. You're
Hmm.
going to see it happen. We have to remember that God has given us this great and precious gift in the
Hmm.
person of Jesus Christ, that we have, that salvation is for all mankind, even those who don't believe. Salvation is still for them, and that He
Hmm.
has given us the ability to hold on to Him if we are willing to hold on. You know,
Absolutely.
and that's something what you were sharing is really speaking to me, because I'm not afflicted like my baby is. So my words, I'm a lot like Brandon. I will jack you up if you think, like, we're not gonna go there. But on the
Yeah.
reality, understanding that she might be very well upset that
Hmm.
she was 21 dealing with cancer, not able to live a certain life that she sees on social media, but still, like you just said, with Robert Frost said, you got more miles ahead of you. You
Many,
can't,
many more.
and that's where, faith come by hearing and hearing by the word of God. We gotta know that we know we're gonna make it. And so I'm so grateful, because I'm trying not to go there, but you started it. It started with when you said, "Mama, pray, Lord, fill my belly." I with my soul, but I think it's amazing that you have that testimony, and so you have a reason to dance, you have a reason to shout, and the fact that you recognize that you were in a toxic place. Let's talk about that for a moment. You were in
Hmm.
a toxic place, and you knew that if you stayed in toxicity, that it would contaminate your very being and you will not be
Absolutely.
effective for anyone else. How can you impart that? What can you say to someone who's listening, who might be sitting in toxicity right now, whether it's toxic in the mind, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in a job, whether it's even in a church dynamic? What can you share with them to help them to know that they have the understanding, the fortitude, the power, and the strength to leave?
So leaving is always hard, right? Leaving means you're walking away from your comfort zone. In
Mhm.
2017, I left my comfort zone, one, because I left the South and moved to Colorado, way out of my comfort zone. But when you think about toxicity, it does, it infuses in the mind, it infuses in the attitude. I had a bad attitude just 2 months ago and didn't really know why I had a bad attitude. I was mean to people and didn't
Yeah,
want to be bothered. And so again, like you said, somebody's there right now. But
yeah.
here's the kicker. Whether you are a believer or not,
Mhm.
you that voice still speaks to you and will tell you you don't belong here.
Yeah.
Now, God gives us free will. He ain't
Mhm.
gonna put a gun to nobody's head. He's not gonna beg you. He says, "Thus saith the Lord." Now you
Mhm.
do with it what you want to do with it, right?
Right. Mhm.
He spoke to me just through events. He spoke through. I this is now my third lease on life, if you will,
Yeah.
coming out of the hospital in January, and so it's like the story in the Bible where God made provisions down in a camp, and these 3, 4, 5 men were sitting up here starving.
Yeah.
And one of them had sense enough to say, "Why sit we here and
And
die?
that's right.
Why sit here and die when
Come
there
on.
is provision
Come on.
down in the valley?" Now,
Come
when
on.
they went down, now you making me preach. That ain't why
Look,
I got on here tonight. But
I'm, you gotta go ahead. You gonna get the word tonight.
oh God. They went that while they were on their way down in that valley, God amplified their feet. Now that's the word.
That's
And
the
it
word.
sounded like soldiers were coming with them to get them, cleared the camp. They made provisions was made. Why did
Yes.
you say all of that? God will provide. You gotta, I've been on this. You gotta trust the process. That was just my last TikTok that I posted. Not TikTok, that was my motivational moment for today. You got to trust the process. You got to know that I'm going to be okay if I get out of this. There may be a sister or a brother that's in a domestic situation tonight. And you think, well, I ain't got nowhere to go. I guarantee you got somewhere to go.
Yeah.
And you just have to make up in your mind, I'm going to be okay. When I walked out of that building on February the 12th, for the last 8 months, I had been the only African-American male case carrying social worker for a county who should have, in my division, at least 80 social workers. And I was the only African-American male. Mm-hmm. So the toxicity of being in that environment of, oh, Felix can go talk to this person at the jail. Oh, Felix can understand. Felix is sick of that. Yeah. Because y'all are killing me, but you get to go home at night and you're not worried about it, right? Over the last 3 years, I saw plenty of broken babies and broken homes and children discarded. And it started to physically wear on me. I was in the hospital twice in December and January from stress, which started to affect my physical health. And so I had a decision to make. It was either, again, sit here and die or go down in the valley where there are provisions. And when I walked to the valley, there was provisions, whatever that provision, whether that's a health, whether that is solace in the mind, whether that is solace in your body. I feel like I want to be real preacher and said, loose here, devil. Hello. Loose here, right? Because the people of God deserve better. People in general deserve better. You deserve better. I'm speaking specifically to somebody tonight. You deserve better than what you are receiving. We give, as social workers, we give. They may give you a little parting gift. They may give you some popcorn and chapstick and tell you, I got a story on that, but that we about to run out of time. But I'm telling you to trust the process. And that's one way to come up out of toxicity, out of a toxic situation. Just trust the process and make some moves. There's an old rap song. I'm going to date myself. But the word, I can't remember who the artist is, but it says, get up, get out, and do something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Get up, get out, and do something. That's what I'm saying to you.
That's all right. That's right. Listen, time is time, whatever. But that's a word. And, look, I was sitting here like we was in church. I didn't click on nothing. I said, I'm not going to touch nothing. So let me catch up on these comments. Let's see here. So I'm putting everybody on the screen. So Yolanda, yes, we have miles to go before we sleep. Got folks showing love all the way from Chicago. And then again, Crystal is saying to speak life. Yes, death and life is in the power of the tongue, and we eat of which the fruit we speak. So what are we saying over ourselves, right? What are we saying to ourselves? But like you said, we got to trust the process. It made me think when you hit first, I'm gonna back up, but when you said you had to go this route, like you feel like it's not why am I going through this? The children of Israel, they could have easily went through Philistia, but God already knew they gonna see them giants and they gonna touch them.
Ain't gonna do right. People ain't gonna do right.
Like we want to be slaves again, But through the wilderness, through the Red Sea. But again, thank you, God. Hello, sir. Now I'm getting. Thank you, God, that you see everything. It's challenging, Felix, when it comes to seeing someone who is your baby suffering, and you can't take that for your baby. You can't stand in, you can't get that radiation, you can't get that chemo, you can't deal with that nausea, and you want to take it, but you can't. But you have to help them to understand and trust the process and to know that God is faithful. And that he'll bring us through. And so, you are very much an agent of change, evangelism, of support. Listen, they already saying, Yolanda trying to keep herself together. I agree that, you're empowering someone to leave. I know there's folks battling with divorce. Some people have been ruminating the desire for divorce. Some people have been wanting to leave various, and some for just cause, other for just whatever. But are we trusting God? You know, and then when you mention about he provides, every morning on prayer, I mentioned how God, thank you for being a provider. But I think we forget how he provides. And I believe that he allowed us to meet and have this exchange on what I like to call international television on Facebook.
Amen.
I'm saying it in advance. It's streamed all over the world. You know, if my granddaddy would live, like, oh my baby got a show and everything. You know, you know how it is when they talk real big. But you know, understanding that somebody needed to hear what you had to say. Every week, every guest, every time I open up the show, I just believe that God has whatever a person needs. He provides whatever that person needs to hear. So I just want to tell you, thank you you did take your time calling. And I know part of it was affliction. Part of it was affliction, but I also saw you posting and you were taking a lot of selfies. And I said, oh, okay. He gonna do all these selfies. Okay. But I was patient because the Lord is dealing with me.
All in his timing.
But again, and it definitely is, because this timing is perfect, because I do believe you just gave a word for someone to be free, to hold on and trust the process for better. For sure. So let's see. Jason said the setback may have amused you, however, the comeback will confuse you. Y'all better come on with these.
That's my boy, Dr. Jason Lester.
Okay, I said, come on. Now I said, now that sounds like a preacher. That sounds like a preacher.
He need much prayer. We got to keep praying.
Well, listen, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, all of my frat that joined in to see, you know, your regional director of collegiate affairs. You know, I got to give deference.
Oh,
right?
Brother Strong made it. I'm sorry I cut you off. Brother Strong thought he wouldn't make it, but it looks like he just chimed in real quick.
Yeah, I do see Brother Strong, and so thank you all that have stepped in the room and have expressed your sentiments through comments and through posts. Please, y'all, do me a favor. Like or subscribe. Why don't you do both? Onto the YouTube page. Help this platform to continue to grow and go. I don't know what is to come, but I know whatever's to come is better than what's been. And so thank you, Brother Felix. We'll be able to talk for a moment before we let off of the show, kind of do a little after show moment. Thank you, all of my sorors, to my friends, family members, constituents, and to the listener who has never checked out Be Healed before. Thank you for stopping by tonight. Whatever your motivation was, even if you happen to just be scrolling on Facebook or Instagram or Twitch, or whatever it might have been, or YouTube, thank you for tuning in tonight. Thank you for being here. And I pray that God has met you where you are and he gives you the desires of your heart. Seek him always, forever and ever, because he's worthy of it, and he'll bless your socks off. So God bless you. May God keep you. And I'll see you. I will post his social media pages. They want to know where they can find you.
Yeah, I don't know if y'all want to follow me. No, you can find me on Facebook at Costrell Moore, COSTERRILL Moore. On Instagram, you'll find me under Blue Soul 12. BLUSOUL and the number 12. And on Instagram, TikTok, you will find me under Mr. Social Worker 12 on TikTok. So yeah, those are my social media handles. And just hit me up, and you'll certainly be entertained.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I appreciate you all. May God bless you. May God keep you. And if you would like to be on Be Healed, you have that opportunity. Simply just contact me directly at CRP Consulting Inc. Inc. at gmail.com. Look forward to hearing from you. Until then, we're signing off for tonight. Thank you for bearing with us as we got the technology under control. And we will see you all soon. God bless you. May God keep you.